Alright, welcome back. Just going right into the next set of unlocks. I guess this one is what, part 3 of the crystal cracking? So we can just get right into it, right? Times 10. And you can see right here I have Decepticon and Autobot chips to go through. So we're going to do the chips, and then we will... I accidentally opened one. It was a part of the Beast Wars set. Where is it? Yeah, you can see right there. I'm like, I can't... You know, I went to hit the question mark to see what the percentages were and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden just one opened and I got Rat Trap, and I was like, that's not what I meant, but whatever. Me and my big fingers, I guess. Alright, but let's go right into, we will do Decepticon chips first, right? Alright, we'll go right into that. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Decepticon chips, then I'm going to do the Autobot chips, and then I'm going to do these premium ones from whatever event it was. So let's do that, alright? Yeah, that works. So I don't invest any of the combat spark into the Decepticon faction for now. I'd rather have my mains maxed out, and then I would share the wealth with the Decepticons. But by no means all of a sudden, if I see like somebody's at the cusp of a new number, like say if he's at 1,000 power level, and I'm sorry, like 1,999 power level, and if I just increase his combat bot, then he gets to 2,000, I'll do that, you know? I'm just looking. Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I'm gonna let that slide for a second. We'll wait for this to finish first. Alright, and let's see here. Alright, let's see. Go back to that. Alright, sorry, I was a little quiet there. So, if anybody saw that prompt that came down, it was that, I was doing laundry, the washing machine was done, so I did that really quick. And while I'm also doing that, taking a look at some emails. What's this done? 2005. Separate note than Transformers Earth Wars. You can look at my face and see I'm an older guy. So before this game came out, my friends and I would get together and play poker. And after all these years, I don't know what made me think of this now. Like the last time we played, we were always short on green chips, which is typically a $25 chip. So the way I have my increments is 1, 5, 10, 25, and 100. Because, you know, they're easier to be divisible in that manner, and that's typically what you see in the casinos. But for all the years we've been playing, we were always short on green chips. And we never use the ones, the single ones. We always start with the 5s, 10s, 25s, and 100s. And now, all these years later, and I mean all these years later, I bought those chips back in 2005. And the last game we played in 2022, October to be specific, I was like, why haven't I bought, you know, additional 25 chips? Because then at some point we would just grab, like, say, the ones and start using the 25s. And I'm like, you know, all these years, why didn't I buy them when I first noticed it, right? Like, it would have made more sense and it would have had proper usage buying it all those years ago. But I'm like, you know what? This happened. Let me see if I can go buy some more chips. Let's see what ends up happening. And I noticed the company that made it is, like, their website's out of business. So I'm like, uh-oh. Or I'm sorry, like, their website is now directing somewhere else, so I think they went out of business. I'm gonna try real quick. Just want to see. The company was called Gaming Habits. Okay, and all I'm gonna say is, hello. You guys still in business? Let me come back to the game. Sorry about that. Silence is the the downfall of any video, right? You gotta keep talking. So when it comes to talking about the chips, though, right? There aren't that many combat bots. I even asked this question a while ago, right, to them. I don't remember how long ago it was. I think this is when they had 8, so 4 per faction. And I posed the question. I was like, did you guys know that these guys would be this popular? I mean, it's additional revenue to them. I'm sure they see that people are buying them. So many. What's this? I don't know what that's about. See if I can take some Google Photos. But they were, you know, a great bonus, right? I think at some point the cap was 60 before they increased it to 65, right? For the 5-star box. So it was always interesting because it's like, hey, you can't get your teams any stronger than this. Then there were the cores. It was like, okay, you can get a team maybe a little bit stronger, but you can't get them past this. And then the combat box came out that, I don't want to say completely changed the game, but yeah. Now there's more dialogue, more transformers, and more strategies to play the game. And also, it's, I want to call it like casual, right? Because granted, it's not real time, you know, PvP type of stuff. But there's something really satisfying about, like, hey, I was able to get my guys stronger. And now I can, you know, take down these bases. And I feel like the people that we're coming up against, because it happens so often, probably not that big of a deal. You know, like, they're not like, oh, I'm going to come and get that guy, or I need my revenge type of thing. but it's just like, oh wow, you know, like I'm sure probably in the back of their head they're like, oh, if they didn't have blank, I could have won, you know. But now the attackers are so much stronger, or I don't want to call them the attackers, that makes them sound bad, but it's like now we're that much stronger, you know. I love to see 4-star dupes. I would love to get the 4-star guys before seeing the dupes. So I know I'm missing some 4-star bots, combat bots. So I still get a little annoyed about that, but when all of a sudden I get the dupes now, I don't feel as bad because, like I said on the previous video, I already have a chunk of the bot, so I understand why the RNG isn't on my side. But it's like, oh, okay, alternatively, I got, you can see from that 4-star dupe, I got lots of Energon, and I got a good chunk of the chips, so I'm that much closer to a new 4-star. I'm sorry, new 5-star. Now the question is, I didn't look at which batch I should go after. I think the last time I just went after the generic batch, which, like, if you look at the other batches, there's 5 per batch, and then when you just go into the normal one, you can see 5, but there's really 7 of them. So before knowing that, I found out the hard way. I got, I think, 2 of the guys from the batch. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I only have 2 more to go. I have my eyes on, I forgot the name of them. It's the one that does the overload strike like Jazz, and that's who I wanted. So I shot them an email saying, yo, I don't know how this ended up happening, and then they emailed me back, very, very polite and professional, and they were like, well, if you scroll to the right, you'll see that there's more in the batch, so it is the way we set it up. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. But I think on top of that, they set it on one of their streams that they have it like that for now, and they will make another batch at some point, but for the time frame, this is, it's only going to be for a little while, but it's going to be like that. So I guess what's going to end up happening is when they make the next batch, I'll have a piece of it completed. That's all. It's crazy to think for a moment that with everything being completed, all the duplicates, it's like, hey, if you actually do this right, if you play the game enough, if you throw enough money into it, you can have the 5 stars from your alt faction. And I'm not really for that, to be honest, because I don't know. I feel like that's another place where I kind of draw the line, right? Since I don't have, since your alt faction isn't as, maybe I'm not going to use the word right, you may not like this, they're not as strong as your main. And the reason I say it that way is because you can't use a combiner on your alt faction. You can't use, you don't have your alt faction Titan. So that side isn't as strong. Like, if they'd have to really rework the game so you could have both factions the way you want it. And I always kind of got annoyed right from the beginning, because when I went into the game, of course, like without a hesitation, I chose that I want to be an Autobot. And I don't know, at some point I was just like, hey, what about the Decepticons, I played the campaign and I'm like, how do I get to the other side, see what their campaign's like? And it wasn't possible, right? Because they only have one faction as I guess, lack of a better term, the main. And when I got to a certain point, and unfortunately, when I say a certain point, it was the 5-year event where they're giving away a free 5-star, was when I was like, yeah, you know what, why not, let me start an alt account, because I would hear a lot of the other people who play the game by no means do I mean like the vast majority or even the majority. It was like a small percentage that would start up a second account. And at that time it was really complicated to do that, right? Because you'd have to either have another device, you'd have to have like a jailbroken version of the game. So the way to do that was complicated. And when you look at complication, that kind of is a failing on the company that made it, you know? Because instead of me using, because that's how it started for me, right? Like I had an old iPhone 6S lying around, so I made the account on that, and I seldom played it, but I played enough to get that free 5-star. Who was oh god, he's the he's the Warpath equivalent, Skull Smasher, I think, and just playing like the minimum of that type of stuff. Like I started playing just a level up Skull Smasher, make him strong, and then I was like, hey, wait a second, there's a campaign. Then I noticed that the campaigns were a little different, and I was like, I knew it. And for us not to see that other side in the same game is a little off. I feel like, this game is over 6 years old, which means it was in development probably over 7 years ago, Those mobile devices, like the resources, that stuff back then was, not powerful at all. Like if they had to, make this game again, but with like, 2022 tools and resources available, it'd be completely something else. What I would love it is if they would somehow, instead of saying, hey, let's cater to the people who have 5-year-old devices, and I genuinely don't believe anybody uses those older devices as something serious. They probably have them around as their backup devices, or probably like a digital frame, like I'm not saying those older devices aren't useful, but they're really not in use, and I feel like they should kind of, space ape that is, they should do some stuff with the newer technologies out there. And I speculated, I don't know what engine this is. It could be a custom engine, it could be Unity. I don't think it's Epic, but I mean Unreal. But like their engine probably has been updated. So why not put a little into it? For years people have been saying, hey, we want certain things corrected. Like they've been complaining about the replay system, and the devs would say, like, listen, if we had to fix the replay system, or not even fix isn't the right word, if they had to put the request of what people are asking into the replay system, they'd have to redo the whole game. And to a point, I'm like, if you got paying customers, you have to do it, right? Because I don't know if the... Oh, whoa, I got somebody new? Oh, look at that! Look at that! I don't know who I can put this on. Probably some melee guy. But alright, that's good. That's cool. Got somebody new. But, like, as time goes on, like, typically when a game comes out is where you have your most usage. It's like skyrockets, right? But after a certain amount of times where your player base comes, and then there's, like, things you can do that where the player base increases and, spikes here and there, like events, and when those type of things are done, though, and unfortunately, it'll go like this, but then it'll start trickling down, it'll start going down, yeah, hopefully never like this, but, it'll start going down. So that's where it's like, hey, what do we do, and some of those things were, hey, making, the combat bots, the combiners, and the titans. They did great with that. They expand the game. But what they would, I think, have to do is, figure out a way to let people play both sides. You know, from our point of view, the user, you know, the people who enjoy the game, it doesn't feel like a big deal because they somehow figured out how, you know, you can flip factions when it comes into replays, so why can't it be the other way around? And the devs look at it a little weird. It's just like, hey, you're gonna go through, you know, 15 minutes of a combiner, and then if you have that same combiner on the other side, you'll do it again. And you know, in my house, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what would happen. We would play again. You know, like, I don't know where the gripe would be. It's like, hey, should you have the same amount of fuel for both factions? Is it like just two separate games in there where it's like, hey, you have 50 fuel for one, 50 fuel for the other? I couldn't say how that would work. I would kind of like, if it was like when you first start up the game, it says which side do you want to play, then I say it would be 50-50. If you're in the game playing, you can switch at any point, then maybe one fuel, you know, instead of 100 fuel to use. Who knows, maybe 75 for the pool of both. And then when you do a season pass, you have, you know, 25% on top of that, right? I don't know. I'm not the one who can make those type of decisions. All I can do is just sit in front of the device and say, oh, you know what I would like? I would like this. And we all can do that, right? At minimum, I guess what we can do is go to the Discord and be like, hey, can we do this? I remember I used to tweet at Space Age. I never got a response, so, but at least with the Discord and when it comes to their stream, I get responses. As long as it's a, you know, a viable, intelligent question or you know, something meaningful to the game, I want to say that they'll respond, you know? And I would ask my questions at the right time. One thing I never got a response for was what offline mode was, because they said they're working on it, and somebody else responded to me. They're like, hey, that's what dispatch missions are. I'm like, oh, is that it? I was expecting like offline mode to be like the campaign stuff, and even to a point you can make offline mode like all the older sagas. How that would work out, I don't entirely know, because like there's two parts of the saga, right? There's the actual storyline lore, and then there's the way they set up the reward system. If they had like an offline saga, which, wait a second, it was a team totalizer of, you know, 1.5 million, how would that translate over? Would it be as simple as, hey, wait a second, 1.5 million divided by 40 is what, I think 30, it's under 33,000, I think, right? Like 31.5, something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, so this person has 72 hours on offline to do that type of event. I don't know. But if it's offline, what's the proper timer? You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, I'm not going to log into the phone on hour 71, and it does or doesn't work, I don't know. But it feels like I'd almost rather enjoy that, right? Where it's just like, hey, instead of trying to get 31,000 points in a timed 3-day weekend, how about you just, you know, let us have it, like the score is there and there's not a time frame, so it's not like the countdown of 3 days. Instead, all it is just an upward counter hitting 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, 40,000, whatever it is. Then at that point, you wouldn't need to be stressed out either, right? Like, hey, it's going to take me a year to get there because I only play once a day. It is what it is, but you still get that goal, you know? Meanwhile, like when it comes to the events that are online in that timetable, they get lots of money from the people, from the grinders, you know what I mean? And I don't just mean like the top 10% of the players that just consistently throw money at the game. Might not even be the top 10%. It could be, you know, something like the top 2%, who knows? It could be higher, like, hey, it's the top 25. I don't know. but like that money is what keeps them going, you know. And for them to take that away would be a little harsh. But they're also a corporation where it's just like, hey, if you take from here, you got to put here. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that have to be imaginative and find out where to properly balance it and shift things accordingly. Right? This weekend's event being that it's Halloween weekend, and I think they also do it for like Christmas, right, or New Year's. They do smaller events because they don't want, you know, they kind of like shift from business morality to, you know, personal morality, where it's just like we don't want them sitting in front of their phones and grinding and getting worked or overworked and burnt out. So let's give the smaller ones like this, and that's a good thing. And where I felt it the most was when we had the Metroplex event, the 4-star Metroplex event. And at that point, I think that one was only, I think each of us had to be 42,000, something like that. And I barely hit it. What ended up happening was there were the top 5 people in the team that went above and beyond. So even though I got into the 40s, I didn't get like the full amount, because at that point, when you added up all the scores, it hit the amount that was needed for the event. And like that Sunday, when I saw that we hit it, I kind of just put the phone down, and I didn't touch it for a while, because you know, of course, let me rephrase that a little bit. Like, of course I picked up my phone, but I just didn't want anything to do with Transformers for a few days. And typically, whenever we have an event, I kind of walk away from Transformers on Mondays, because that's the safest day to walk away from it. It's like, hey, unless there's a war going on, there's no raid, there's no event, there's nothing that mandatory says, hey, get in here and get something done. And I have the vast majority of things maxed out in my, I didn't want to say the whole game. I have plenty of Transformers that are strong. It's just my base that's pretty much maxed out. So it's like I can take a break Mondays. And to a small point, I can take a break on Thursdays, but typically I've recovered from the little bit of burnout from taking that break on Monday. And like Tuesdays and Wednesdays when the raid's going on, I do jump in. And of course there's wars happening, so I do that participation, but at that point I'm not logging in and playing multiple times a day. I might be just logging in, that's it, to see what's going on, see my messages, see what's going on with the team, and see where they are at wars. I try my best to participate in every single war. I am not that strong that I complete every single war. And the last part of it is, if the score is so lopsided, yeah, I'm like everybody else. I'm like, oh, it's not even worth it. I'm not gonna touch it. And a lot of the players are like that. We only get angry when it's close, you know. Like, hey, we lost by 15 points, we lost by 100 points. Why didn't you? And I'm like, yeah, that's never happened to me. I don't think it has, at least. I think I got yelled at for a raid one time. But war-wise, no. I remember I yelled, because there was this one time, I still remember it, like, the score was 1980 to 1975 then. And it's just like, is that a joke? Like, did somebody come in last 10 minutes and get that? You know, it's like, what happened? You know, for us to lose by 5 points, that was something. That one, I feel like, was a justified yell. It's swinging back and forth ends up happening. You can't really do too much about that. It's just, hey, keep your eye on the swing. And hopefully we're so far ahead that if there's a swing in the last 2 hours or even the last 20 minutes, we're good. But yeah, 1980 versus 1975. I was just like, that's a joke. How did we do that? Like somebody was slacking. And they're like, oh yeah, we got this in the bag. Nothing to worry about. And then we didn't. I don't remember what the score was, but I remember the flip side of it only happened to us once, where it was hopscotching a lot, and then they had a really good lead, like it was a 300-point lead, and then at the end we came back with the win, and it's just like, wow, congrats. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. I think I'm gonna end this video here because I just got the Decepticon ones done. So for the next video, it's going to be the Autobot ones and those premium ones right there. Alright, wow, fast 30 minutes. Thank you for watching this one, guys. I will talk to you in just a little bit for the Autobot ones, alright? Bye-bye.